Today's topic is grounded leadership, staying in alignment during challenging times. And I will be joining you all as the main kind of facilitator and host of our space today. We started this series of coffee breaks, I would say about last year, and it was an opportunity to, yeah, just connect around different topics that we see both in like the therapy room, myself and our team, as like kind of common topics, as well as just in our day-to-day life. And we wanted to create a space that offers, just resonance, support, and growth together. So it's a very informal way for us to connect here. So we invite everyone to, yeah, just show up and we'll kind of see where the conversation takes us. So welcome. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Monique Castro. I'm a citizen of the Navajo Nation and also Chicana, born and raised in Los Angeles. And I'm the CEO and founder of Indigenous Circle Wellness, and I also co-founded two nonprofit organizations. And a lot of my work today is supporting leaders, executive leaders, folks who are going into leadership. So this topic around leadership is very near and dear to my heart, and how we both show up in our leadership and also how are we supporting others in their leadership. So I get the great honor of working with leaders on a regular basis, including my team of leaders, as well as the folks that, I work with as their coaches and therapists. So I'll bring some of that experience, both from a personal experience and lens, as well as some of the things that I share with the clients and folks that I get to work with in community. What are you doing to stay grounded? And with grounded, I mean like what keeps you in alignment? What is supporting you to get through and be the best version of yourself today, right? Let's go with today in this moment. When you're thinking about today's maybe plans, your schedule, what's on the agenda, what have you already done or what do you plan to do? So just think about that for a moment and feel free to share it in the chat. I also invite folks to come off mute. This is a conversation, an opportunity to connect. And I ask that because we all are doing something. Well, we showed up today here. And now whether you're showing up live on this coffee break together or later on when it is posted on our YouTube channel, you're showing up and you're taking this time. And so something supported you in doing that. It might be an intention that you had. It might be a routine that you have on a regular basis that allowed for that. Maybe it was the planning that you knew this was happening. So you're like, you planned around it. So again, I want to uplift that everyone's already doing something really well, and we all have something to work on too, right? Um, so yeah, I just want to kind of check in with folks and that question as we kind of arrive here today is what has supported you and what has grounded you this morning?
I'll start. Hi, my name's Arturo Zavala. Monique and I are related, but recently met each other maybe less than a year ago.
Mhm.
Um, but one of the reasons why I'm here is supporting Monique, right, as a family member, and not just Monique, but the work that she's doing with all of you. But what's keeping me grounded? I've been known to be a leader that's very calm, someone who can take chaos and bring it down so that everyone can really assess the situation. But today, when I saw Monique's post on Facebook, said, I'm going to change my schedule so I can be a part of this and help support. But I think what I do every night is I put my plan together the night before for the next day. And then that way I've already thought about it. And then so when I start my day, I look through that list again and say, okay, has anything changed since I slept? You know, hopefully it doesn't, but then I just take a look and see what I could if take a look at that list and just check it off one by one.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you so much, Turi. So yes, he is my cousin that we just met each other not too long ago, like in person, and it was such a beautiful experience. And what I've learned about as we get to meet more of our relatives and is one is how much, especially on my grandfather's side of the family, they're so grounded. And people share that oftentimes with me on my the ways in which I show up in like this like very grounded state. So as I've met Arturo and his father, who is my grandfather's relative as well. Like it's just been like, oh my gosh, like when you just like, oh yes, we are related. Like we just have like this certain thing. And he's a leader. Like he has his own businesses, like he's doing amazing work. So I'm like, oh, we got some more entrepreneurs in the family line, which is awesome. So thank you. I appreciate all the support and also how you show up in your leadership. Yeah, I want to invite other folks to share like how they're feeling grounded or what has offered their groundedness in today and arriving here today. I see some things in the chat here.
I can jump in to share. Good morning, Laura. And I did have to plan around this for sure. I had an 8 a.m. right now, which who has an 8 a.m.? But I had an 8 a.m. and then now I have a meeting after this. So I think like, but I made sure to make time to be here because I always say I'm going to join and I can't because my schedule is always busy. Um, so I think like being here is just like, okay, I'm doing it. I'm gonna make the intention to be here. I think generally, I have two dogs that force me on the good and the bad days to take them out for a walk, which is beautiful and powerful. And we walk along the Rio Hondo riverbed, which is also like really good medicine to be around those native plants in the water. So I think that's a really grounding practice that I have daily. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for sharing. And thank you for making the time, making those arrangements. And you shared something that really stood out to me too, and this might resonate with a lot of other folks, is you you shared like, why do I have an appointment at 8 a.m.? Which comes up a lot, I think, around like how we schedule things. Like, is that and I'm not saying that the schedule that you had is not the right one, but sometimes it is. It is a question for ourselves, like, when do I want to, or when should I start my day? Like, when is my first appointment? When is my, especially if you're in a position where you get to really navigate your own schedule. And oftentimes we actually have more autonomy with our schedule than we think we do. Then sometimes there's like this perceived of what we should have it look like, but not actually what it needs to look like. So it really comes back to us on how we take accountability for how we're navigating our own schedules. And I'm guilty of this myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed out. I'm so busy. Oh my gosh. And then I'm like, but I did that. Like I literally did that. I put that schedule there. I said yes to that time. So then I need to create better parameters for myself and boundaries around my time and then be real honest with, well, what is the ideal time? Right? So I made some of these shifts in the recent years. And sometimes I kind of like I have to re-look at my calendar again and be like, oh, I did that thing because I'll feel it and you'll feel it, right? So you'll make some shifts and then you'll be like, oh, I'm doing so good. This is great. And then you're like, damn it, I like overbooked, or I'm doing too many meetings back to back, or I said yes to this thing across town and I probably shouldn't have said yes to that, but I did. And now I feel stressed, right? So a lot of the times it's us making the choices. So I want us to just like, remember that. And also, okay, well then what do I want it to look like? What is the ideal way? And how can I work towards that? Because that's what's going to keep us also in alignment. When we're thinking about being grounded, I do not feel grounded if I am like rushing from one thing to the next, right? I need more spaciousness. We all do. Even if we're folks who just like really thrive in high stressful situations, like we can get it done. Yes, we'll get it done. But are we actually like feel like our body's still feeling that stress and it's going to come back to us, right? And we see that months later, like in burnout. So we're trying to avoid the burnout. We're trying to avoid not being in a place where we're feeling overworked, overstressed, or tired, all that kind of stuff. When we think of leadership, and I always like really emphasize this, it's sustainable leadership. It's sustainable so that it's like how I'm able to be grounded and show up today should be it should be consistent throughout the year. It's not like, oh, this month is so busy and now I'm just like my team can't expect me to be available, right? Um, and we'll talk a little bit too about like what that means when we think about like seasons and changes, and when there's life that happens, and how do we still show up and our team still feel supported when we have to maybe take breaks, right? And when I think, and I say team, because I'm talking about being like, if you have, if you're managing or supervising a team of folks, or if you're a business owner, but also think of the team as your family. So like your family, your household, like we are leaders in so many different places of our lives. So we want to really think about, okay, well, how does this impact? Because it will make a shift, and it will impact other parts of our lives as well. So leaders, we're all leaders. Just want to note that. And also the various ways in which our leadership shows up, we want it to be sustainable and grounded across the board, right? So I'll pause there, and I'll just kind of want to check in with anyone to see if there's any questions, if there's any other sharings around like what is grounding you or what has supported you in arriving here today.
I can go next. Hello, everybody. My name is Mariela, she, they. I wrote down my thoughts because I feel sometimes I get a little nervous and I like forget, but if I'm looking down, it's my own thoughts. But something that helps me stay grounded is I feel like relationships, sharing what I feel is true to me, and like staying true to those values. I feel like that's what grounds me. I thought for this coffee break, I thought it was interesting that it was like about alignment and in like the professional atmosphere, because I feel like being in alignment is something that I'm constantly trying to make sure that I am in. And I just recently graduated from the master's program. And that was like a question that I kept thinking about, like, how am I going to stay aligned and like, yeah, how am I going to stay aligned while I respect my values, while I enter this professional field where there's like laws and unspoken rules and stuff. And I feel, especially like in mental health, I think that there's like a lot that we need to be intentional about not doing. But I just think that it was just kind of what I was thinking about. And then I was like, I need to start asking, like, how are people doing it? Just as I'm like fairly new. Because I know people are already doing the work, being true to values, which I feel sometimes like these values are not like out of the world. These are out of like this new idea. It's like people are already doing it very like naturally. And I think that it's more about, I feel like, learning how to navigate the system that we are part of. So I feel like I made sure I joined today because I feel like it's exactly what I have been asking myself, and to be in a space and in conversation, I feel like that is in alignment, like being in a relationship and talking about it.
Yes, yes. And first of all, congratulations. Congratulations. And you're so in the right place. And I'm glad that even the topic really called to you, and I imagine anyone who's here, like there's something about it that really was like, okay, like I want to join. And so, yes, the values. When we think of alignment, we have to think about our core values. And these core values is really like our driving, it's our North Star. It's what drives us. It is what fulfills us. And when we're not in alignment with that, we will also notice it. It will feel icky. It will feel like, I don't know, this doesn't seem right. So, one, I think it's important to identify and know what your core values are. Something that you had shared was like relationships, right? You shared relationships. You shared like staying true to myself despite like these systems, this how my things might like function in this world. You didn't say in that exact way, but that's what I took from it, is that, well, how do I stay true to myself while also navigating this maybe this profession, going into these different like roles. And so that was a question that I had for myself as well when I entered, well, actually when I graduated was, and throughout schools, how do I stay in alignment of who I am and what's important to me? Some of my core values is community, family, relationships, wellness, sustainability, right? So when I just think of those things, that is what keeps me in line. So each day I ask some of those questions to myself, especially if I'm feeling a bit I'm not sure about something, or I'm being asked of something, or being called to do something. Does it touch on any of these things? Does it feel in alignment? If it doesn't, those usually a no. It's like a pretty clear no for me. Sometimes I'm like, I'm not sure. Let me like think about that a bit more. But it has to almost always touch on a core value of mine. Now, those core values also transcend into the work that I do as a therapist, as a coach, as a business owner, right? So Indigenous Circle of Wellness, our mission and our mission and the vision is very much in alignment with the core values. So of course, as a founder, they're going to be in alignment. It would be really strange for me to have a mission and vision of an organization, a business model that was out of alignment for me. If it was out of alignment, that it's not going to be a successful business because then I'm not really like moving in the world in that same way than which it has to be in alignment. So even as you're building out your career, whether you have a business or you're going to do if you already have a business, if you're doing an expansion, if you're going to have a new partnership, if you're going to even receive, a funding grants, like, isn't it an alignment? We have to ask that question. Like, does it really fulfill the core values? Once you know that, right? And we all know what that is for ourselves. Some of us just might need to take a little bit of time to write that down and just be very clear on it. And then that's how you move with the decisions with that at the forefront, right? And if you have that, that's what is the core area, then you move in that direction. Everything else definitely becomes, it just makes more sense. So I will share this year as a team. Actually, late last year, as a team, we developed our like year goals for the practice. This is what our focus is. This is what we're going to be doing. This is why. And how does that connect to our vision and mission? How does it connect to our personal core values as team members team members in Indigenous Circle of Wellness? So everything is tied together, right? It's all interconnected. So all the team members are aware of like, these are our mission, this is our vision. How does this connect to you? Because we need to make sure we're all moving in the same direction to have real impactful work. So if I just decided to go completely off of my core values, it will derail the entire company, right? So how do I stay in alignment with that? Is one is I have to check in with myself, especially when there's hard moments, right? I have to check in with my team because we're a team. We also, need to be able to be in alignment together, because we're moving in a direction cohesively, right? And then there's might be moments where I might feel like it's a little out of alignment. We have to recheck in. So this is the same thing with any part of our leadership is like, how are we checking in with ourselves and others? I wanted to share and highlight that because when we're out of alignment, and some of us might be in different like work environments or might even have relationships, friends, family, colleagues that are just like, this doesn't feel right, like something's off. You want to check in with that. Is it because there's actual like core values that are not in alignment? You want to maybe readdress those relationships. Maybe there's boundaries that need to be established. Maybe there's just a different way of relating with somebody. The relationships can, do and can change over time. But when we think of alignment, we have to think about it holistically in all parts of our life, right? If I'm someone who is saying sustainable leadership, sustainable wellness, and I'm not taking care of myself, it's going to show. My team is going to know. I am going to feel it, right? So what are some things that I do and are helpful? And I'm not saying it's perfect every day. Every day is, a little bit different. But I really, and this is since I was a little girl, y'all, I really prioritize my sleep. Like I need 8 to 9 hours of sleep. I will make sure I'm counting back the hours. Like I need to be asleep by this time because I need to make sure I'm awake by this time. And I'm by default a morning person. I always have been. So I also know when it comes to my own boundaries of time, I am not someone that's going to be out late at night, y'all. I'm just not. It has to be like something really extra special. And then I have to make sure I'm planning accordingly so I can get my sleep back. Right. So, and this has been true even in college when I, was out at the clubs, let me tell you, right? Like I was like taking my naps before I went out. I prioritize my sleep. And for me, that is such a large part of my wellness. Some folks can like really operate like on 3 or 4 hours, not me. I will not. And I know this about myself. So sustainable wellness for me is always going to include my sleep. Always, always, always. Okay. So you have to think too about when we think of the core values, what's important to you, but also what is essential for your wellness. Because when we think about alignment and sustainable leadership and being grounded in our leadership, we have to know what supports us in that. So I know again, for me, it's sleep, it's rest. And there's some things as I've gotten older that has also changed, which is like um, I I need more downtime. I just need more downtime. I need more time to myself. Why? Because I'm in space with folks all the time. And if it's not in like in my therapy work as a coach, as a leader within the practice, it is being a mom, it is being an auntie, it's being a friend. So I spend a lot of lunches and little time by myself when I'm able to, right? I'm like, I'm not someone that needs to have someone with me all the time because I actually need time away from people for a little bit. So those are things that I know that help me stay grounded and I kind of just kind of recalibrate, just feel ready for supporting again because I'm someone who supports a lot of other people on a regular basis. So I need a lot more time to myself than maybe when I was younger. So I'll pause there and just want to kind of check in with folks, like what's resonating with you? What are you noticing? Um, like what's supporting you? What helps you stay in alignment? What can you work on? And then of course, any questions as well.
I'm definitely resonating with needing time alone, Monique. I think as we're younger, we just want to be around people. And, sometimes, like you said, the people that we're around, sometimes they don't meet our core values. And that's what kind of brings us down. So now as I'm older and I'm a little bit wiser, I'm like, I enjoy my time alone too. Like the kids are in school, I want to be by myself. So I can definitely resonate with that too.
Yeah, that alone time.
Yeah.
I know sometimes my husband's like, let's go have lunch. I'm like, no, I will go by myself. We can schedule another time or day for that. It just depends, right? And the same for him. He gets to let me know too. Sometimes like, let's go do this. And it's like, actually, I'm gonna take a nap. I'm like, okay, you know. So it's being respectful of what each other's needs are. And if you've ever worked with me, I am also someone that's like, take the time you need. Like Yesenia had mentioned, I'm always like, take a breath, take a break, go take a walk. Like one thing about how I feel support is, and especially is for my team, is like, okay, well, what do you need like, what do you need to just kind of like reflect and reground? Like the work is always going to be here. Like we are a hardworking team. We do amazing work. And I will say, and I hope this is true, Wendy and Yesenia, I'm not just like speaking out here, but that you also feel like if you need the time off, if you need to rearrange a schedule, if you just need to communicate, like I need to, whatever it is that you need, that there's that grace as well, and that you get to take care of yourself in this process. And I think that's important as leaders, that we're also recognizing like what our teams also need. But both, I would say, showing up by example, but also by offering that support. So we're not, just in this world of constant like move space. But when we're working, we work hard. We do.
And I think us as a team, we definitely appreciate it. But a question that I have for you would be, how did you get to the point to prioritize your team's needs while also kind of holding it down as a leader, knowing that a business has to be ran, and that the business, because of those team needs, the business can sometimes suffer. So how do you get to that point, and how do you continue being a great leader?
Oh, thank you, Yesenia. Great question. So I started my leadership journey when I was in like a formal leadership role when I was about 23-ish. I was a very young leader in like middle management. So I would say I have a lot of experience at this point. I'll be 39 this year. So it's been a long time of me being in like a formal leadership position. What I've learned about that, and I was even as a younger person who was always like leading something. I was that kid that was always like leading something, is that your team, your colleagues, your whoever you're working with, whether that's in like a group setting or in like the formal like work setting like this, is a lot of trust. And that trust only is developed through relationships, and those relationships have to be in alignment as well. So that's why I go back to those core values. So when we think of our core values, so relationships, the trust, um, are all going to be really essential. And in order for me to be a good leader and to offer that is to really understand the needs of my team. And not like I recognize, because I've been in the setting, I've been the employee, I've been the person who my boss was not supportive, and I was just like overworked, undervalued. I've also been at where it was like I just felt like another person that just like, just had to get the clinical hours done or like get the numbers in, and that was it. And that wasn't an alignment. It didn't feel right. So having not so great experiences and also having some really awesome experience. I also had some really amazing supervisors, managers, and leaders that were like, there was a lot of trust there. There was like, I knew I can go to them with questions. I knew that I could say, hey, I'm having a really bad day today. Like, can I just leave early? Like, I just need time. And they're like, yep, no problem. Right. But that also was because they knew like I'm gonna get the work done regardless. And they're like, do what you need to do, Monique. You take the time you need. I've also had bosses who were like, I don't care. You're not off till 5, so get to it, right? Like literally like that. So I knew what I didn't want, and I also knew what I really appreciated. So when I think of like being a business owner and being a leader, I really take that into account. And like, I want to make sure my team feels very valued and supported, while also being a support to myself. Because I will say one thing I have learned over the years is that I was really good at supporting others and not always so great at supporting myself until I would say in 2022-ish, after I had my son. And granted, I was pregnant, so that was a whole thing in itself. I got really burned out. Pandemic happened, and it's like, that really burned me out. And then I was pregnant, and then pregnancy was its whole thing as well, postpartum. So like I was really burned out, and I wasn't quite taking care of myself. But then when there was a light bulb that went off, and my team held me accountable, because just like I hold them accountable, they held me accountable. You need to take the time to take care of yourself. So I had to do that, right? So I've recognized both the need to support others and support myself, so that reciprocity, and that my responsibility is to also be a good leader and mentor by example. So there are several things that I've done over the years to help support me with that. One is it's really important for me to get feedback from my team. I get that in various ways. One is we have like monthly evaluations where they let me know just how the business is running. Do they feel supported? Is there anything that they need or missing? We do monthly meetings, which are also very intentional. We do, different check-ins. I do about bi-monthly like opportunities where I like just hang out with the team members so that we can just connect, not anything work related, but they get paid for the time. Just like, how are you? Right. So these are all things that are for me have been really helpful, and what has been shared back to me as things that they really appreciate in my leadership. So it's the humanity part of like we're humans and we're in relationship with one another, and it's not just the work that needs to get done. Now, we do have goals. We do have high standards. Our quality of services is very high, and we keep to that standard because that's what we have. But we all are working in that same alignment. But it doesn't have to be extractive. It doesn't have to feel exploitive. This is some ways in which, we think about like re-indigenizing, decolonizing. It's how we practice, um, you know, in our actual actions, and not just like what we're saying as like a heading on a post or on a website. It's like how we're actually showing up. And so, am I perfect? Absolutely not. But do I work daily to try to like strive to do that? And if I feel out of alignment, or I'm like, oh, I check in and my team seems a little stressed out, I'm like, hey, am I stressing you out? And they're like, well, we're kind of moving real fast on this. And I'm like, okay, let's slow it down then. So I have to like be, have awareness too, right? If my I'm Wendy, I'm gonna pick on you real quick, but there was some mistakes that were happening, and it wasn't Wendy's mistake. Actually, it was my mistake, because I was giving her a bunch of information that wasn't quite lining up. In my mind, it was lining up. I was like, okay, I have all these ideas, and she's just like kind of capture all the information. And so then she had moved forward with a process, and I was like, oh, that's not what I wanted. But that wasn't her fault, and I recognized that, and I let her know. I'm like, hey, I know that I think I was just saying so much, I wasn't clear, and I see how this might have like showed up in the result of this work. So like, let's take it back and let's get regrounded in what, now that I thought through it. And so I also acknowledge, like, sometimes I just talk really quickly and I have like really quick ideas and I just like shoot them out, but it doesn't necessarily mean, so anyhow, there was a communication thing that we needed to, and so we did that. We talked about it, right? And then Wendy had mentioned, thank you for acknowledging that I just wasn't like catching all of it. And I'm like, no, girl, you got it. It wasn't you, it was me. But I do think that sometimes as leaders, we can think that, one, we're told that we should know it all. We don't know it all. Two, the other thing is that we have people, as humans, we have egos. And so sometimes we have a hard time acknowledging like when we make a mistake, or when someone else is making a mistake, and like feedback can be difficult. I personally don't have a hard time. At least I don't think I have a hard time with feedback, even if it might like sting, I can navigate it. But I think that's something as leaders we also need to be aware of, is like, how do we receive feedback? And then how do then we work through it, right? Because I work with leaders that were like, no, this is how it's going to be, and that's it. And I'm like, what? Like, but it doesn't make no sense. So I think what, for me, more than anything, is like, I do not want to be that person. I didn't like it. I don't want to be that way. And I'm a human, so I'm going to make mistakes. So I think I answered the question. I hope I answered the question. I hope that was helpful. If I missed something, let me know. But yeah, thank you for asking that, Yesenia. Oh wait, one thing I will say, I do a lot of work on myself. I have a therapist, I have a business coach, I have a lot of support. I have friends, family, my colleagues that I check in with. I don't do this stuff. I don't do things alone. I really do reach out for a lot of support. It's something I didn't do earlier on in my younger years. So I do think that having continuous support is always going to be helpful.
Curious. I know that you mentioned that you and Arturo just connected, and knowing that both of you guys are leaders, have you guys shared like any feedback or any like conversations on what you guys can do like to become better leaders, or any advice with one another?
That's a good question. Arturo, what do you?
I don't think we have, because when we first met, it was under a specific situation and we were just getting to know each other. But when I saw this today, I'm like, you know what? Here's my chance to get to know Monique better, and not just, a family setting, but more from a business standpoint. So I said, I'm going to take that leap. But I know I'm the only male here, but everything that you guys are saying applies to both, right? I like some of the things you guys are saying. Everyone's a leader to have the title to be a leader, right? It's how you conduct yourself, your behaviors, the way you think, because I do believe great followers become great leaders. But you also have to be a leader of yourself, your core values, your brand. So you have to be a leader. Other leaders recognize leaders, even though they're not official leaders, right? You can see the behaviors and just the way they approach things, that they're thinking. So continue having these types of discussions, because it's gonna, even at the younger ages, I don't know, for those that are younger, us older people on the call are saying, hey, we now need to respect my time. We need to respect my calendar. We need alone time. We need to speak to the right people. So those are all things I admitted to. I did not get that advice when I was younger. I had to figure it out. So you guys are getting a lot of great knowledge right now from a lot of great leaders already. So keep doing that. One of the other things that are around feedback, a great leader knows when to say it, and how to give it.
Mm-hmm.
Good leaders also know how to receive it, right? They don't take it personal. So as leaders, don't make it personal. And when you're receiving feedback, don't take it personal. Even if the other person giving it to you is making it personal, find a way to put that aside and really connect with the message that they're trying to give you. So sometimes you have to get feedback immediate, like real-time feedback, because you don't want that to happen again in your next situation. But other times you want to let them say, you tell them, hey, think about the situation. Let's talk in 2 days. Let's talk tomorrow, right? So that they can reflect on what's happened. You need to, hey, you got a call in the next hour. Let's readjust. Don't do this, stay this, and then they're ready for the next one. But you have to recognize the situation and know when to give it and how to give it.
Such good reminders. This is where emotional intelligence is really gonna be really helpful. And I would say in previous years, when I actually did it in college, I did it again. I did it in various times, and I do these assessments regularly, at least once or every other year, around like how there's different assessments about how your leadership shows up and like what are you really strong at? What are some areas you can work on? I've also done like 360 evaluations where I get feedback from a lot of different people in different settings that know me so they can share with me like what are the things that I'm really good at and what are things I can work on. That feedback then helps me then work on the areas that need more support. I would say one of the things that I like, and I might still struggle with it less these days, but I've really worked on it. Um, there was, it's my tendency to not take breaks. So in a feedback that I got, and actually a few years back, and I've worked on it since, but again, I think it's still something I'm going to continuously need to work on, is they said, we need you to take a break and just disconnect and take care of yourself. Like that was actually the feedback I received. I was like, oh, okay. And again, so that had like that's not if I'm not doing that, I'm not in full alignment. So I needed to like really work on that. And I have, but I could still again work on it a bit more. Like when I'm on vacation, I don't check the emails, but sometimes I still do because I've missed my job and I love what I do. But again, those are just the choices. I do want to mention that or share back some things that Arturo also shared, which is like the pausing and the like circling back to things. So some things do require some like immediate feedback, and sometimes it's just like, you know what, let me sit with that and let me get back to you. Or I'm not sure yet, and let me circle back to you on that. There's always, especially in today's day and age, and it's like this constant like quick response to things. That sense of urgency is not it's not actually needed. Like we do that again. It's another area where we kind of do that to ourselves, just like I mentioned earlier with the calendar and how we like set up our schedules. It's like, oh, wait, I did that. Well, we also say sometimes yes to things too quickly, or we're not really thinking through, like, does this even make sense? So if you are a person, and I was a person who is quick to say yes to things or wanting to show up for a lot of things, it's a good reminder to like let's pause and reflect before you give a response. I usually say try to sleep on it, at least give yourself a few hours to think about it, and check in with your values. Like remember, go back to your values. Is this in alignment? Yes or no? If it's no, it's already a no. You just probably had a hard time saying it, but then you want to go back and say no. Then it's like, okay, well, it's in alignment with my values, but now does it make sense with my schedule? Does it actually make, does this part of maybe what my focus is in this season of my life, right? Yes or no? Okay, so you kind of give yourself a bit of a, um, thinking of like like not the org chart, Wendy, but like our process, like, okay, if it's yes or no, you go to the next step. Yes or no, go to the next step. It's kind of like that, but you do have to check in with yourself because what I will say I see the most of as a coach, as a therapist, as a friend and family member is people are like, I'm so overwhelmed. Okay, tell me more about it. Well, I keep on, I'm saying yes to this, or I have this on my plate, and I have this, and I have this, and I have. I'm like, well, why did you say yes to all? Well, because I have to. Says who? Who told you you have to? Right? Well, I need to, like, so it's like, no, we have to again go back to is this in alignment? So I think that's one huge takeaway is like reconnecting to what's in alignment for you, what your core values are, especially in challenging times. So we are in challenging times, y'all. A lot of stuff's going on in the world. A lot of things are impacting our communities, our own livelihood, our friends and family, and we cannot do all the things for all the people all the time. So what is your main area of influence of support, right? I had to get grounded, okay, I'm a mom, and that's a huge responsibility. I have to make sure I'm there for my son. I'm a CEO of a practice that I have employees. I'm responsible for my staff. I'm responsible for the clients that we work and we serve. So I need to make sure that I'm taking care of myself to show up in those ways. I can't do all the things, right? All the time. So these are the things that I'm going to focus on, these two areas. And in that in itself is a big responsibility and undertaking. So how do I be the best version of myself in those two areas in this moment? Right. I'm obviously do a lot more than that. Like I'm an auntie, I'm a sister, all those things. But even those sometimes are things that I might have to like, well, is this what I need to focus on today? Right? Is this what I need to focus on in this moment? So we have to make some decisions sometimes of like, what is going to be the most, where is my energy, time, and resource going to be the most useful and supportive? And sometimes it's not what we necessarily want it to be, or we're like, we want to do all the things. We cannot. This is where we find a lot of folks in burnout and where folks are, I need to do this and I need to do this. And I'm like, no, we need to focus on like two things this week because we can actually not do all the things. It's just like literally impossible and we'll get so burned out. And burnout is going to show up in different ways, y'all. It's going to show out in us getting sick more quickly. Our immune system will drop. It's going to be the stress that our body feels, going to be the tension that we have. It's going to be the back pain. It's going to be the headaches. It is going to be, the sleep disturbances. It's going to be not eating. It's going to be all the different things. And for all of us, it shows up differently, but we know ourselves best and we know when we're kind of getting to that point. So we have to take the time to really, one, recognize it and then do things to prevent that. And I have a hand raised. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Hi. Okay, I'm gonna go off camera, but it is my day off, so we're just gonna run with it. It just feels so weird not being on camera with just when I speak and seeing everyone. I've been here though. With what you said, Monique, it just reminded me of because it always happens where the questions are asked, and I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? Like, yeah, I'm I don't do any of this. But of course, it's always in movement. And so I've learned through this conversation here how important it is to, I guess, name it. And how do I begin? I've been a person very in touch with my energy and my body. And so I kind of just listen to that and I'm like, I don't know, just listen to your body. Just, does it feel wrong? Like you said, then don't do it. And so I think that sometimes it does help. What helps me ground, of course, the waste management crew would come. I don't know if you can hear the beeping. Um, so yeah, like one thing that just reminded me of what I do that's not always I guess acknowledged, and so I'm taking this moment to acknowledge it for myself, is how much and how important it is to listen to your body. And anything from like, oh, my eyes twitching, because I hear that a lot, right? Like, I don't know why my eyes twitching, hold on. It's like, no, let's hold, yes, let's hold, like, let's just stay there. And so that, from your like skin dryness, from like your bowel movements, to the belly sounds, the little body, like just like, oh, my back kind of like hurts, I need to do this more. That it's just so critical to give that trust to our body again, that it's trying to communicate with us on an energy and spiritual level. And sometimes it's not going to match what's happening around us. Our environment could be very good, very healthy, very safe. But sometimes there's an energy that just was stuck from yesterday, and we have to kind of acknowledge it and move it a bit. But something that has kept me grounded, I would say all of my life, but now I can give gratitude to it, so it can come back to me a little stronger and faster, rather than like, oh, I waited 3 months after burnout to see it. Is just checking in with your body. I do it in the most, I would say, random times. Well, they're not random, they're all whenever my body asks, but it can be if I'm walking, if I'm sitting down, even just watching TV, there's just it takes me like a quick, just 5 seconds to just do a body scan. And then I noticed that my jaw is clenched, and I realized that I had not paid attention to anything the show was talking about. So then that allowed me to check in and pause and move. And so, yeah, I would say body scans, and as you can see on the chat, I had put squats. That's a new one from this week. We'll see if it can last. But the way that squats have like helped is with progressive muscle relaxation and all that like sciencey stuff. But at the same time, we know what tension does to help us release and move energy out. That one has been very helpful because, of course, it gets your mind off of what's happening in the moment. And then it really focuses like the mind. And I'm a recovering gym goer, so I know the feeling of like needing to move. But yeah, like there's something magical about squats, and then there's like a little heat buildup, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is nice. And then just kind of recenter. So yeah, body, like listening to the body in 5-second increments. Like it doesn't take a 30-minute meditation. It doesn't even take 5 minutes. It's just like, like, zzz. All right, cool. Yeah, so that's all I wanted to share.
Thank you so much. You brought up tying it back into what we were also talking about earlier is around the trust. And I mentioned the trust with our team, and our team trusting us and we trusting them and having this relationship, but it's the relationship that we have first and foremost to ourselves, and the relationship to our bodies, and how much like our bodies, goodness, just like give ourselves like some grace. Like these bodies are like keeping allowed us to show up here today. Like they are doing so much for us on a regular basis, and it gives us so much data. It lets us know. It's our job to pay attention to it. right? Because sometimes we're like ignoring it,
Yeah.
right? It's those 5-second check-ins, the 10-second check-ins,
Mhm.
intentional with it, and it will let us know. And then we have to act accordingly, right? And with that information data, as well as like how we move forward with it, we are leading both ourselves, and we're also letting people to witness that. So thank you also for sharing that. And I resonate with the squats. I've been working out. The gym has been helpful for me, by the way, for like a lot of just release of a lot of tension and energy in my body. So Ali, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you so much. I was looking forward to this so much, and I love this community tremendously. So I appreciate it all, and it's all just fitting like a glove. Currently, I'm sick, so I'm not putting the camera on. I feel like una like used up chancla right now. Just trying to. But I would love you know, 'cause you have so much experience and leading teams, and one of the questions I constantly get from like other leaders and then even myself is how do you help with like managing conflict within team members? Because I feel like that as a leader can be so you do everything, you know, like you set up the spaces, you set up the times, the meetings are intentional, but it feels like sometimes it's out of your control when there is just conflict between team members and their own core values and you know their expectations and how they see you know your strategic plan, how it should go, but then they don't align like in different like it could be a department or just team members, but like support on that would be super appreciated.
That is such a great question. And I will say we will definitely do another coffee break on that topic in itself for sure. Because I think it really just needs its own space because it's a big one. I actually do a workshop on conflict resolution um, to actually address a lot of this. So what I would say in like the smallest nutshell of this is going back to the core values. And the conflict will arise. Conflict is a human thing. We have conflict. Conflict is not a bad thing. So first and foremost, conflict is not a bad thing. It does give us information. Now, when conflict gets to a point where it can be really dysregulating, where it can like what it happens is it triggers things up in us and in others. But there are, of course, different ways to manage it. What I would say as at least a takeaway from this point is to one, know how you navigate conflict yourself. Again, going from that first kind of internal reflection of like how do you handle conflict? Because that is we are a mirror to a lot of other people. So how we handle it is also going to be how someone else is going to relate like with us or in these different situations. Checking in with ourselves with is going to be really helpful. And then also again, just knowing that like it's not a bad thing, but like what is coming from this. Sometimes it is a misalignment and like literally to the point where there's sometimes team members just aren't going to work well together and there's going to need to be some adjustments. Sometimes it's us making just the decision to like leave an employer or leave a certain situation because it's just not in like it's not good for us. The conflict is not a healthy conflict. So I think depending on the situation, there's like other things we would have to understand and know on the dynamics on the back end to help support like conflict resolution. But I think it's at least essence of it is that conflict will happen. It's how we navigate it, and more importantly, how do we show up in those spaces of conflict? What is triggered within us, and how do we want to how do we show up in that? How do we model that differently? So I'll leave it at that, but I will note this as another coffee break because I think in itself it's its whole own thing that needs space.
Love it. Thank you.
How folks navigate that as well, given different situations as well. So thank you all so much. We are at time. Have a beautiful, blessed day. We will be sending a follow-up email with just, info, ways to connect, and yeah, have a great day, you all. Bye.